My time in the beautiful city of Paris had come and gone, and though I had only a few days to soak in her riches, to taste the amazing foods and see the sights, make new friends, hear the music, and in a lifetime I could have never hoped to have even scratched the surface of what Paris had to offer, it was still time for me to move on. I'd collected so many treasures here, I had been forced to visit the French post office in order to mail most of them back to me in Texas. And so I loaded up my half suitcase and took to the Paris streets one last time, past the beautiful markets and cafes, until I finally reached the last destination I would see in France, the train station. From there, it was one last glance at the beautiful, unmatched French architecture, and then one last meal. A baguette and something sweet. Couldn't even remember what it was. But even at the train station, the food was delicious. My afternoon Eurostar departed Paris only half full, headed northeast. I stretched my legs as we departed, settling in and past the ancient architecture, the timeless stonework that gave way to the industrial outskirts of the city. And then even that, giving way to countryside that seemed so familiar to my home back in Texas. Wide open fields of crops and cattle, thickets of trees skirted by bird hunters, winding rivers and unbroken nature, pocked only by the sight of those towering windmills. The train itself seemed to slide across the earth as if it were made out of glass, faster and more quiet than any I had ever seen back home in the United States. Furious and efficient throughout the silent land, very few human beings anywhere in sight throughout the French countryside, and then eventually giving away to smaller villages that gave way to larger towns and then back into nature again, and then across the border and back into civilization again, past buildings and through industrial areas, country homes into suburbs, into apartments, enormous warehouses and factories, power plants, and eventually skyscrapers, entire generations, centuries of untold history right at my fingertips and yet just outside my window. For the first time in my journey, I truly felt like a lone traveler. I was in a land where I did not speak the native language, and I didn't know a single soul in the entire country that I now set foot in. The train station was eerily empty. I found my way to the streets through rough translations, but it wasn't until I saw the waffles in the vending machine that I truly knew I was in Belgium. It was a cool and rainy Tuesday evening in mid-September when I first arrived in Brussels. I had no idea what to expect. I had no knowledge of the entire country. All it had been to me up until this point was a spot on the map. I'd spent the train ride frantically reading, trying to figure out the best way to see as many sights as I possibly could. I was only going to have one full day in Brussels, and I was intent to make the absolute most of it.